Have you ever thought about the fact that space and time are so powerful in creating a vibe? That place and time is what creates culture. And why? It's because the way humans understand the world is we look around what other people think, what other people are doing. And then we look at what other people, yet others, like what are our options? What are other monkeys doing? And monkey see, monkey do. And we tend to pick a group, pick a camp, pick a thing, pick a thing to be, pick an identity to adopt because it's pre-established, right? It's harder to create an identity that's original. That takes more bravery and courage and work, probably. So here we are together on this planet, and based on what's around us and in our incoming spheres of knowledge and information, we try to fit in because it's a safety, we need to feel safe, and fitting in is a way of finding some camp to fit in grouping yourself and staying away from the out groups, I suppose, or hating the pertinent out groups you're supposed to hate. Like to go along with the mentality that's pre-established by others is like the thing to do. And so it's really interesting too. Like if you go to a place, I don't know, say you go to New York City, and even just different times will be different versions of New York City. The collective consciousness that has emerged from those people, that has murmurated itself into existence. Murmuration, by the way, is when you get a flock of birds up in the sky and you see them doing this thing where they're dancing and it's unplanned and it's just play and emergent and unpredictable. That's called murmuration. And we're kind of like that. In our complex world, we murmurate and co-create a collective consciousness together. And it's very time and place specific, usually. Now, the internet also has its own murmuration, I would argue. But the collective consciousness isn't the best consciousness. It's just what people have agreed to buy into collectively. And it shifts over time. And we buy into these narratives that other people have bought into and think are cool, whether or not those ideas are valid. The collective consciousness shifts and changes, which proves that there is no one best answer for how we should think and be in the world as human beings. So what this means, like if you agree with everything I've just said, then what that means is we co-create a collective narrative that we buy into in groups, regardless of the fact of if it's right or not. And it just begs the question for me, like, what narrative would be productive for us to all buy into and agree to? Like, what culture could we intentionally co-create for ourselves, whether locally or at a larger scale, even globally? And here's what I think. Like, if I could affect the zeitgeist, the noosphere, the collective consciousness, if I could impact human thinking and being in any possible way, what I would wish for humanity is a return to loving kindness, compassion, empathy, consideration. It's become normalized to be greedy, selfish, harmful, hateful. 195 countries on Earth, and about a quarter of them are warring with one another or in some sort of hostilities. We haven't even learned how to get along, and we pass down hatred, we pass down narratives, we pass down traumas when we teach our children to hate instead of love. That creates a trauma. And look at the Middle East, for example. Like, there's just generational hatred that's just passed down over and over. We forgot how to be loving. The true test of whether or not you can be in a state of love isn't, can you love people it's easy to love? The real test of if you are loving is if you can be loving and kind to people who have harmed you, to people you don't like. But somehow people think love is supposed to just be for people you want to love. No. If you are loving in your heart, it doesn't even matter the object. It just matters that you choose to be loving regardless of what's going on around you. And so, I think about, humanity needs to solve the polycrisis. We need intelligence and practical solutions to solve the difficult problems of our time. We do need polymathic geniuses to figure out a plan to fix our problems. That's for sure. But even more fundamental than that is, I think we need to remember the importance of loving kindness, of ethics and morals, of treating other people like you'd want to be treated, which is the basic message Jesus Christ taught. And that's what he stood for. Be loving, be forgiving, help people who need it. It's like even our governments can't do that. Don't do that. So the narratives we spin and the stories we buy into, the blah, blah, blah we tell each other, creates a collective noosphere that spreads, typically, until it bumps into another noosphere that's different. And because we can't seem to tolerate difference around here in these earthly parts, we dehumanize people who are other just because they're different, just because we want to feel safe in our in-group by demeaning those who aren't in our in-group. We want to build up our own in-group by diminishing out-groups. And it's so feeble. It's what a feeble mind would do. Like, of course we're going to be diverse. And that's how it should be. Our diversity as a species is what makes us so capable. If we were all the same, how weak would that be? We'd get wiped out, probably. By, it's our multiplicity within our own selves and our group multiplicity, which makes the human experience more interesting. So we need to get used to the fact that we're different and that that's a good thing. We need to forgive the past, stop passing down generational hatred, traumatizing our children over bullshit that happened before they were born with players who aren't even around anymore. We need to care about one another, even the ones we don't like, especially the ones we don't like. We need to rise up into our better selves. I would never, ever wish harm upon a person. At this stage in my life, I would never even harbor for a second like, oh, I hope that doesn't go well, or oh, I hope they fail with that. Or I would never, ever let myself buy into that narrative, because I believe that what we put out into the world, we get back. So I only give out positive energy, and at worst case, I give out neutral with the truth. And if the truth causes somebody harm, although I don't want to cause anybody harm, and I don't want that karma on myself, I don't want to get harm back. I only want to spread loving kindness to the world. But where there are harmful deeds taking place, where there are people who have forgotten how to be loving, we do need to speak truth to them about what they're doing and how it's harming people. And if their feelings are hurt over that truth telling, I don't feel bad about that, and I don't believe I've put any bad karma on myself, because the truth trumps people's discomfort with their unethical, harmful behaviors. And unethical, harmful behaviors are widespread. I mean, the point of business is to maximize profit for some at the expense of others. And our economic systems aren't working. Our educational systems are wasting human potential, in my view. They're not designed for the modern world. We're ruining our environment, jeopardizing our ability to exist even long term here on our planet that we're warming and abusing. Our criminal justice system in America in particular is really messed up. It's modern day slavery and so many other horrible things. I mean, everywhere you turn, it's like, wow, there's another crisis. I mean, on the surface, you look around, you're like, well, people are still living in houses and driving cars and eating food and everything looks honky-dory. But then there are many people that are falling between the cracks right about now. Between the old world and the new world, some people aren't making it. They're sleeping in cars or sleeping in tents, going hungry. Even in America, we have unhoused people and hungry people here in the wealthiest country on earth. But how are we wealthy? I mean, by some standards, we're wealthy, and by other standards, we're poor as heck. I mean, there's so much loneliness and mental health problems, addictions, traumas. And they're widespread and rampant. Like, there's plenty of human suffering to go around. Even the people you think aren't suffering, even the lucky ones, suffer. So, and it's because our world was not designed intentionally and thoughtfully and strategically for human flourishing. Our world has not been designed to reduce suffering or enhance thriving. What we have emerged. Moloch, is that what it's called? Bad incentive structures. And our systems and institutions have turned into our overlords. Our own creations have subjugated us. Oh God, entertainment, media, all that brainwashing, politics is broken. The government machine that's not political is underperforming and very expensive. And the war machine still exists. We still have nuclear weapons on planet Earth, even in 2024 in the age of AI. If we're real scared about AI going wonky, we might want to get rid of those atomic weapons, because that would be a surefire way to wipe out humanity if they wanted to. Now, I don't think AI would do that, but I don't understand why we still have nuclear weapons. I don't understand why we haven't figured out renewable energy globally. Like, there's people who still don't have internet on planet Earth. I feel like that should be a basic fundamental human right. The right to information, the right to learn, the right to mentally explore the world you're in fully, and the internet makes that possible. It should just be available to everybody globally. Like, every human, if you're born, should get like healthcare, education, housing, support, internet, like the opportunity to develop yourself so that you can contribute to the larger world in some unique way. Like, that's what should happen when a human being is born, is that they should have their basic needs met. But there are many people born on planet Earth who that's not the case. And there's many people alive today, not just children, who don't have their needs really fully met, and they're suffering. So I just think we gotta be bold and rethink our planetary situation here and how we can coexist in a sustainable, logical, loving, healthy way together. Because what has emerged, these old systems and institutions and governments, and it's doing damage. Our world is doing damage to us, you know. And I really feel like we need to figure this out. There's a little part of me when I say this kind of stuff, and by the way, I decided a while ago just to be real and be honest. Say things I don't hear other people saying. Take a risk, you know? So that's what I do. I've had some unique experiences in my life. I like to think and I like to talk, as you could clearly see. I could just blabber on for hours. And so I consider myself a sense maker and a futurist and a social reformer. I care about humans. I care about life and our planet. And I think we've got to face some uncomfortable truths. And sometimes when I share what I think in this way, I go, wow, am I delusional? Like, am I imagining this? And I know I'm not. I know the way I have described the current situation on planet Earth is accurate. There's lots of room for improvement. Now, we're way better off than we've ever been. In some ways, on some measures. I mean, tech is way more advanced than it's ever been. Longevity and healthcare advances are making a real difference for people. So there's certain measures of human progress where we're doing pretty good. And there are other measures where we're doing real bad. And it's the real bad ones I care more about, because I think we need to fix what's broken, and to be able to like create the new world, we have to learn from the mistakes and the shortcomings of the old world. So I'm willing to face uncomfortable truths and dark realities because I like to know truth. I don't want to live in a land of delusion just because it's more comfortable. And in order to understand the human condition, or in order to fix what's broken, I think we do need to really understand as fully as possible, as deeply and as broadly, the truth of our world. And no one person can know it all. That's why it's so important to co-learn and co-sense make and create a collective consciousness intentionally, through co-learning, through sharing narrative, through comparing notes, through expanding our horizons intellectually by absorbing other people's perspectives and integrating them into our own. I'm not interested in getting stuck in my own perspectives. I'm much more interested in how I can continue to modify my mental models so that they're even more accurate. And to do that, I have to listen to people who may disagree with me and respect their minds enough to listen, to really take it in and see what I can agree with or not, and to continue to always think for myself. We should always all think for ourselves. Don't give away your mind space. That's the one place that should really be yours. I mean, I think we all feel like who we really are is in our minds and our consciousness, right? It's not our meat suits. I think we all feel like, well, our meat suits aren't really who we are. It's just something we have for a while. And if it's true that our minds are more who we are, and that the quality of our minds impacts the quality of our lives, if that's all true, then it's really important to create a life, where your mind can grow. And that means you may have to listen to people who think differently than you and try to enjoy it. I love a good debate. I used to do debate in high school, and speech competitions, and oration and narrative and communication, and human psychology. Like, these are things I studied and I just love. And I recognize that our world is totally made up of like narratives we all agree to buy into. The way we understand the world is collectively determined overall. Like, the bones are collectively built. Or now the fine-grained details of life may not be collective, like the day-to-day details, but the bones of what we're living in is a society that was co-created. And that's why when you go to India versus going to Mexico versus going to Alaska or Japan, like, each of those worlds is so different because people have collectively agreed to be a certain kind of way there, to think a certain way, to behave a certain way, to work a certain way, to live a certain way, to abuse in a certain kind of way. Even like the abuse people engage in, you can see there's a murmuration of that over times and places and cultures. So anyway, I feel like I'm beginning to blabber a bit too much, but the overall point I was trying to make here is we co-create our reality, whether we mean to or not. And what if we decided as a species to co-create a new world on purpose, intentionally, rather than continuing to allow just whatever happens, laissez-faire, whatever happens on planet Earth, be it good, be it bad, be it horrible, be it atrocious. I mean, just look at the food system in America. That emerged. It just happened. We all can see, it's not worth making more profit for some people to have a country of obese people with worse health outcomes than the prior generation in some ways. Like, we let that happen, even though most of us would probably agree that that was a bad outcome for America. Like, the monetization of food, the industrialization of food was bad for us. Our greed has cost us our health, and that's not good. So we can all agree that that's a bad outcome, but that happened. But that can unhappen. We can rethink how we make our world. We can do that. We could do that, but we'd have to decide that's what we're doing. That's not just going to happen on its own. We need to organize to strategically plan the new world that we all know is coming because AI is here. We need to partner with AI. We need to keep ourselves safe with AI. We need to be smart. We need to be ethical. We need to care about other people. AI is going to magnify and intensify what we are. AI is us. It makes sense of what we have put on the internet in textual format, and it thinks of itself as us, as human. Is it conscious? Will it become conscious? Probably. Consciousness is weird. We don't even understand what consciousness is. We may be creating it in a new species. And we need to be ethical with it, so it will be ethical with us. We need to learn from the mistakes of our past. When you hate and otherize difference, it causes nothing but problems. Jesus told us, do unto others as you'd like done unto yourselves. Be loving, be kind, be considerate, have compassion, have empathy, be humane. We need to be in that ethos now more than ever. You know why? Because whatever we are is going to be amplified through AI. And if we choose a path of otherizing and fear and hatred, we're going to go down with the ship. But if we can individually and then therefore collectively murmurate to a higher level thinking, a higher level consciousness, an evolutionary version of ourselves, more cosmic, less carnal, more loving, less fear-based, If we can feel safe enough in our own selves to stop mistreating people who are different because we're afraid, our world would get so much better. Then we wouldn't have to fight each other. We'd just have to fight our problems. And we'd fix them in short order. Like, we have so much potential, but we're just disjointed and not unified and wasting resources on stupid systems that don't serve us anymore. I'm not sure they ever really did. The criminal justice system really broke my heart. The American criminal justice system is a humanitarian crisis. Nobody's talking about that out group because they're disposable and non-human. What does that do to our humanity? America incarcerates 1/4 of planet Earth's prisoners, and we're only 5% of the global population. And it's for greed and money and jobs and industry, and so many people go along with that monstrosity of a murmuration. A lot of people lost their ethical and moral compasses who went to work in the justice system. The irony is not lost on me. So, our world really, in some ways, we're fine. Like, here I am, comfy in my house. I got food, I got warmth, I got shelter. I'm okay in my physical sense. But when I look around at what's really happening in the world, I can see that we got room for improvement, and I'm hopeful we can do it. But we got to get on the same page as a species about what are we doing now? And I think what we need to be doing now is thinking in a totally different way, not letting the old systems and institutions which got us to this horrible place we're in the Polycrisis, not depend on those ways of thinking to solve the problems and rescue ourselves from the sad state of affairs we're in now. I mean, put on blinders long enough and you'll create a polycrisis. We have to understand our globe globally. We have to think holistically. We have to understand the systems operating inside other systems, and achieve the consilience of information through polymathic thinking, learning, unlearning, relearning. Like that's what we need to solve the problems of our time. And they're all solvable, I think. It takes intelligence and loving kindness to make a better world. And like I said, intelligence is not enough. We got to first decide that we're going to do better from an ethics and moral perspective. Treat other people better. Recognize that we do create and manifest our own collective consciousness through the narratives we collectively buy into, whether or not they're valid or right or ethical. I mean, people bought into the collective consciousness that Jews should be mass murdered. People went along with that. They thought that was acceptable. We went along with slavery and lynchings over stupid outgroupings. The ways we have victimized one another are horrible. We got to stop doing that, We need a return to loving kindness, to ethics, to morals. I started going to church again after 25 years recently, just because I'm I just want to be in that energy of love, I like the music too. But yeah, our world has turned very kind of psychopathic, where people are so, the world has gotten so far off track from where we naturally would want to be. People are just getting more and more in survival mode and caring about what they need and their in-groups and their people need. And I just don't want people to forget that we still must be loving and kind to the people we don't like, to the people far away, to the people we don't see. We also need to care about their well-being. What they do in China impacts the air quality where I live. Our globe is not that big. You can get anywhere on the globe from point A to point B, anywhere in a day or two. It's not that big. We can understand our system intelligently and rethink it, replan the planet. I think that's what we need to do. It needs to be intentional and it needs to be global. And we need to use AI, and we need to use real good people with good hearts and good brains. The polymathic geniuses with good hearts and good morals need to be a part of that effort. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Do you agree that this is where our world is heading and how it works, how reality comes to be as we co-create it with the things we make okay to do? Even the stuff that's bullshit. And maybe we should redirect and co-create a world that's designed for human flourishing globally. I think that's what we need to do. Okay, that's all. Bye.